Hey, music fans, welcome back to SoundLab Studios. We are continuing on with the series, my top 100 favorite albums, and we are over halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer, even though Bon Jovi is not going to be making the top 100 albums list. But it's good to see you guys back. We are getting towards the top. We're going to get to some pretty heavy hitters now. If you have not been here before, I am going through my top 100 favorite albums. This is my personal list. It's not a definitive best albums of all time list because you're going to see a lot of albums from the same artist on here, and it's a personal thing. Not trying to pick like the most culturally significant albums to be at the top. Just trying to go through what's my favorite. So go ahead and get going pretty soon. We're going through number 50 to number 41 today. And, well, I guess that's really it. Let's go ahead and get into it. But first, let me find my... there it is. Yep. Not that one. That one. There we go. If you scan that, then you can subscribe to SoundLab Studios. That'll take you straight to my page, and you can check out some of my other videos. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into number 50. Number 50, and this is going to be an album I listened to a lot this year. This is the album Foreigner. It is Foreigner's first album. Here's the back. It's like they're by a train station there. All the members of the band. Foreigner was huge in the 1970s, late 1970s through the mid-1980s. This being their first album, the band named Foreigner came from the fact that half of them were American and half of them were British. And so they jokingly said, wherever we go, half of us are going to be foreigners in this country. And so that's kind of how they got their name. It was created by the guitarist of another band called Spooky Tooth. His name was Mick Jones, who got his friends together to make a band. And they hired Lou Gramm as the lead vocalist. That guy is fantastic. So this being their first album in 1977. Wow, I can't believe this is their first album because there's so many amazing songs on here. Of course, you got Feels Like the First Time is the first song on here that synthesizer. Cold as Ice has some great piano. I forget the name of the keyboard player on this album. He's only on like the first 3 albums. Let's see. His name is... Well, who's the keyboard player? All right, here we go. Al Greenwood. Al Greenwood is the keyboard player on this album. Really good piano from him. Of course, that great guitar solo. Cold as Ice was the first guitar solo I ever learned how to play. Lou Gramm's vocals are fantastic. And then you got Star Rider, which is this really cool, almost slightly like proggy sounding song that features some really good synthesizer playing again from Mr. Greenwood. Head Knocker, The Damage Is Done, amazing song. Long, Long Way From Home. Funny thing is a member of this band at the time was Ian McDonald, who was the saxophone player for King Crimson on their first album. It's interesting that the guy who plays on 21st Century Schizoid Man also plays on Long, Long Way From Home, which Long, Long Way From Home is probably my favorite song on this album. I like the saxophones and the guitar, and then the synthesizer, super cool. Woman Oh Woman is kind of more like a power ballad song. That one's really good. I'm at War with the World is a great rocker. Lou's voice is very powerful on that one. Fool for You Anyway is the big ballad on here. And then we close with I Need You. So, fantastic debut album from Foreigner. And that's not the last time we're going to see them because number 49 is this one here. Foreigner 4. We got 2 Foreigner albums on my list. This one is even better than the debut. I kind of flip-flop back and forth as to which I like better. I ultimately went with this one. I feel it's a little bit better than the debut, even though both of them are fantastic. I mean, Double Vision is pretty good as well, but it didn't make my list. This was produced by Mutt Lange, who's a really big producer. Great sound here. Kind of got more of an 80s sound as we're getting further and further into the 80s with this album here. They've been reduced to a 4-piece band by this time, hence the title 4. And it's also their 4th album, so funny. Nightlife is a really great way to start this album out. Jukebox Hero, great vocals on that one. It's a big rocker. Break It Up is a really underrated song. I love that one. The big ballad on here, Waiting for a Girl Like You, fantastic. That's probably my favorite Foreigner song. Luann, really underrated song from Foreigner as well. Of course, you got the big hit Urgent on here. That was, I think, a #1. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that was a #1 hit. I'm Gonna Win, that's an underrated song. Woman in Black, another underrated song. Girl on the Moon, that's a really vibey song. And then the last song on here, Don't Let Go, is super underrated. I forgot how good that was until one time I was shuffling some songs and that started. I'm like, what Foreigner song is this? And then I looked like, oh yeah, it's on Foreigner 4. And that just gets stuck in my head sometimes with the Don't Let Your Love Go. Super cool. I like this album. All right, that's enough of Foreigner. Number 48, we have Tears for Fears and Songs from the Big Chair. So Tears for Fears is like a British duo. I know one of the guys' name is Roland Orzabal. I forget the name of the other guy. Who's the other guy? Kurt Smith. That's the other guy. They're the 2 members of this band. Really great 80s album here. We start out with Shout. Amazing song. The Working Hour has some really good saxophone on it. Really great song. Of course, everybody knows Everybody Wants to Rule the World. That huge song. I love that song. Love the guitar. Everybody wants to rule the world. And how's this for an opening line? Welcome to your life. There's no turning back. I mean, great first line of that song. Mother's Talk is a cool song. I like the synthesizer strings in there. It's cool. I Believe is really vibey. And then you get the Broken Suite, which is my favorite part of this album. Broken is this really cool song that's very frantic, has a really cool guitar solo too. And then you get to Head Over Heels. Oh my gosh, that's my favorite Tears for Fears song. I love the piano. Bo no 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 do no 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 no. I love that. And I love when you get to the end, whenever the piano's playing that, you got the big sing along. Na 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 na. I love that. And then there's like a broken reprise after that. The only song I don't like on this album is Listen, the closer. It's kind of more of an ambient track. I mean, now that I've been listening to David Bowie's Berlin trilogy, maybe I'll like it better, but I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a weak end to this otherwise perfect album, but still love that album. Speaking of which, here's the man himself. We're just talking about him. It's not his Berlin trilogy, but this is Hunky Dory by David Bowie at number 47. This should have been David Bowie's breakout album. It really should have, but unfortunately, we all know it was the next one that gave him his big break. But then once he released his next album, people came back and started looking at this album, and now it's regarded as a classic. So many great songs on here. As we all know, Bowie never really made the same record twice, and this one is kind of more of a singer-songwriter album than his later kind of like glam rocky stuff or his new wavy mid-70s stuff or the 80s pop stuff. This is more like a singer-songwriter album. Very piano-driven. And you got Rick Wakeman, who would go on to be the keyboard player from Yes, to do the piano on this album. So that's amazing. Lots of Bowie classics on here. Changes is the first song on the album. Changes. Love that song. I love the piano. It's kind of Bowie's theme song because he never really makes the same record twice, and he always goes through these changes. Oh You Pretty Things is the next song. More great piano from Rick Wakeman. Life on Mars is Bowie's best song, in my opinion. Love the piano on that one. Love the orchestra. Beautiful song. It's kind of a play on My Way by Frank Sinatra. Since the people who wrote that song, My Way was like a French song, and they wanted Bowie to write English lyrics to it. And like, too bad, Bowie, we were going with Frank and Sinatra instead. And so Life on Mars is kind of like the revenge for Frank Sinatra. Kooks, that's a good song as well. It's kind of a fun song. Fill Your Heart. That's a fun way to start the second side of the record. Song for Bob Dylan. That's funny. And this album closes with the Bewley Brothers, which is a really, really hard rocking song, kind of pointing at where he's going with his next album, Ziggy Stardust. So that's number 47, Hunky Dory by David Bowie. Now, how about some Genesis? We're back with Genesis. At number 46 is Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. Amazing, amazing, amazing album. We start off with Dancing with the Moonlit Night. Man, I love the acapella opening to that. It's just like, can you tell me where my country lies? And then it gets kind of more rocking as the song goes on. Stepping out with the moonlit night. This is a Peter Gabriel album. I've got a Phil Collins one coming up if you guys like Phil Collins. I Know What I Like. That's their first big single. Funny song about a lawnmower. Firth of Fifth is epic. I love Tony Banks's piano at the beginning, and I love Steve Hackett's guitar solo. More Fool Me is one of the first songs to feature Phil Collins on lead vocals, which is cool. I think it's the second one. Battle of Epping Forest, I'm not as big on because it's, I don't know, too wordy, but I still kind of like the song. The Cinema Show. The Cinema Show is one of my favorite songs on this album. Love The Cinema Show. The synthesizer solo, especially in the second half, is just mind-blowing. It's in 7. Really cool. And then Isle of Plenty is just kind of like a little tag for the Cinema Show. All right, that was Genesis. Now we're going to get to some Pink Floyd at number 45. Some people are out there probably thinking, what? Number 45? That's the greatest album of all time. Well, it very well may be the greatest album of all time. It's just not my favorite. I still love it to death. It's in my top 100, but it's not even my favorite Pink Floyd album. Like, I feel like Pink Floyd made at least 2 albums that's better than this. But still, I'm not trying to discredit this album. This album is fantastic. I mean, it's kind of like a concept album talking about things that you go through in everyday life, things that everyone experiences. I hate that they don't have the track listing on the back. You got to open it up. I like the inside, though, where it's like the rainbow goes in and there's like a heartbeat. I love how the album starts out with a heartbeat and ends with a heartbeat. That's really cool. Breathe in the Air. Fantastic first song here. I hate when they play it on the radio, though, because it has to go into On the Run. They always fade it out on the radio. I'm like, no, where's On the Run? On the Run is this frantic instrumental song, which is about trying to catch a plane on time. Super cool. I love the synthesizer on there. And then you get to Time. You hear this big explosion sound effect, and everything just goes quiet. And you're like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, these clocks just chime out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa. And then it's Time. Great guitar solo by David Gilmour, and interesting lyrics talking about how sometimes you feel like you don't want to do something, and before you know it, years of your life have gone by, and you're like, where's the time gone? Really interesting stuff there. I love Great Gig in the Sky. It's a it was an instrumental song by Richard Wright, but they have this vocalist that just does these amazing vocal gymnastics on there behind it, symbolizing death and how it's inevitable. Money, everybody knows Money. Fantastic bass line on that. Morning, money, it's a gas. I'm all right, Jack. Keep your hands off of my stash. Great song. Us and Them, another great song. And then it goes into Any Color You Like, which is all this amazing synthesizer work. Brain Damage, that's where you get the title of this album. I'll See You on the Dark Side of the Moon, talking about mental illness. And then Eclipse. Oh my gosh, what a fantastic way to end this record. And I love the last thing you hear is just this old gentleman say, there is no dark side of the moon. As a matter of fact, it's Old Doc. Great album. Great album. Okay, we got more Genesis at number 44. Invisible Touch. And people are probably saying, what? You put Invisible Touch higher than Dark Side of the Moon? My list, my rules. But yeah, this is a fantastic record. Just so many catchy songs on here. Great singing from Phil Collins. Just the songwriting and song craftsmanship on this album is top notch. Invisible Touch will get stuck in your head for days. Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. Love that one. Love the synthesizers in the middle. Land of Confusion. Love that song. I love the MTV video with the puppets. In Too Deep. Great ballad. Love that one. Domino. Kind of a more progressive song for the older fans. And then the Brazilian. Great instrumental. So Invisible Touch. And I'm a little more brief on that one because I just did a full review on that album with Jacob. Go check that out if you get a chance in our Genesis series. Now we've got, let's see if Briar appears. Queen, Queen, Queen. News of the World by Queen. First off, what's up with this album cover? This killer robot. That's freaky. It's one of the coolest album covers. But this it's on upside down. This starts out with We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions, two of their most well-known songs. Fantastic. I love how We Will Rock You starts with just the clapping, and then the guitar solo by Brian May at the end is fantastic. And We Are the Champions, love that one too. Sheer Heart Attack, really rocking song, love that one too. All Dead was written about the guitarist Brian May's dead cat, but it's a really cool song. I like the piano. Spread Your Wings, man, is that song underrated. Love that one. It was a single, and it should have charted much higher than it did. Fight From the Inside is a really hard rocking Roger Taylor song. Who Needs You? That's kind of a Latin impinged song. It's Late, fantastic. I love that one too. And then My Melancholy Blues, yeah, great Queen album here, number 43. Okay, Nick. I hope you're ready, Nick, because I know you really like this one. This is The Who Sell Out. What was once Nick's favorite album of all time at number 42. But this album here, way ahead of its time. It came out in 1967, but it's I would imagine it coming out at least a year or two later. This is a concept album that's both celebrating and making fun of radio and commercialism, because the band has songs on this album, but in between they make fake commercials. As you can see here, you got the lead singer swimming in a bathtub of baked beans, and the guitarist holding a giant oversized stick of deodorant. The album is just as funny as the cover here. They have all of these... you can see the drummer. He's with the girl because he works out, does this workout program, and then the bass player has a pimple cream. All four of those are actual commercials on this album, which is really funny. But the songs on here are really good as well. I don't just like the concept with the fake radio. I'm going to have to look at the record because they don't put the track listing on here. Armonia, City in the Sky. Super trippy song. Love it. Of course, I already talked about the deodorant commercial. Tattoo, humorous song about kids going and getting a tattoo because they think that's what makes a man a man. Our Love Was. Oh, I love that song. I love the psychedelic guitar solo on there as well. I Can See for Miles was once described as the hardest, dirtiest, rockinest song of all time. And then Paul McCartney said, screw it, I'm going to make Helter Skelter and outdo that. But I love that song. I love the guitar riff. I love the one-note guitar solo. Super good song and really good drumming there. And then I Can't Reach You was another great song. It feels like all the songs on here are either like really hard rocking or just great 60s pop. Relax, that one's got some good organ. Silas Stingy is written by the bass player, kind of a humorous song about this guy who tries to save his money, kind of like Ebenezer Scrooge. Sunrise, super underrated. It's a ballad. I love that. And then the last song is called Rael. No, we're not talking about Genesis and the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. It's a story about a sergeant in the military or a captain in the military who is deciding if his men are going to attack on Christmas Day or retreat. And there's some great instrumentation in there. So that's number 42. Now we're going to get to number 41. We got more Rush with Permanent Waves. Permanent Waves by Rush. This is Rush's first album of the 80s, right before the big one, Moving Pictures. Their previous album was Hemispheres, and so they thought, man, we really kind of pushed the limits on that one. We need to make shorter songs because, let's face it, the last album we spent way too much time and effort on, and it was kind of tricky to pull off. So they thought, what if we take all the amazingness of our last album and just made shorter, more concise songs? And that's what they're doing with this one. The first song is Spirit of Radio, which, oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite Rush songs. I love the guitar at the beginning. That almost sounds like radio waves. And there's a Sound of Silence reference in there as well. Like so many different sections. And it has one of Alex Lifeson's best guitar solos as well. Free Will. More great soloing there. I love Geddy Lee's bass, little bass solo he does in there. Jacob's Ladder. Oh my gosh, that song is amazing. Just a really moody song, kind of describing a rainstorm, but through the eyes of as if the raindrops are little soldiers, which is really cool. Neil Peart, the drummer, always just writes great lyrics. There's only 3 songs on each side, which is interesting. Entre Nous, I love that song as well, about trying to understand someone. Different Strings. I used to not like that song, but it's really grown on me. And I love the guitar solo at the end, which just as you're starting to really get into that guitar solo, it fades out and you're like, no. But then you're like, it's okay because you get to Natural Science. Oh my gosh, that song is mind-blowing. It starts with the sound of waves, and then you just get the acoustic guitar in there. And then, oh my gosh, I can't even describe it. It just goes through all these mind-blowing sounds with Alex Lifeson's guitar, and Geddy Lee sings with like this reverse echo on it, and it's just super cool. And you go like, wow, 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 wow. Like if you haven't heard Natural Science, you have to hear that. It's one of the most mind-blowing songs I've ever heard. So yeah, 41 is Permanent Waves by Rush. Okay, that is all for this video. We will see you in the next one. Just a quick little recap. 41 is Permanent Waves by Rush. 42, Who Sell Out. 43, News of the World by Queen. 44, Invisible Touch by Genesis. 45, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd. 46, Selling England by the Pound, Genesis. 47, Hunky Dory, David Bowie. 48, Songs from the Big Chair, Tears for Fears. 49, Foreigner 4. And 50, whatever. 51, no, 50, yeah, Foreigner. So we'll see you in the next video.